Now that you guys have seen the video showing how the test works, showing how the structure of the test is set up, how the interaction between the test giver and the test taker, or you, works, let's go over each different part of the test. So you notice there were 3 different parts to the test, and it did kind of become a little more difficult. Task 1, or the first part, was the easiest. Became a little harder with task 2, and then task 3 was the most difficult. So let's start by discussing speaking task 1. During this, she asked a lot of general getting to know you questions. There are a couple different purposes here. One, the test giver, the IELTS test person, is trying to get you to relax, become a little more comfortable. If you walk in really nervous, like, oh, it's time for me to take the test, they want you to calm down and answer some easy questions. What's your name? Where are you from? Do you work or are you a student? Things to help you relax, which is good because you can't answer difficult questions if you're too nervous. So, on the one hand, the questions here are a little easier because they are trying to get you to relax. But just because the questions are easier doesn't mean that they are not judging you or grading you on your speaking. Ooh, I guess my animation was a little strange here. We'll just talk about all of that. Okay. So notice I say focus on grammar here. That's a really important thing. In this section, be very careful that you answer each question in the correct grammar, in the type of grammar that they ask you. So for example, here's a common question that you might be asked, which is, does your name have any special meaning? In a lot of cultures, people's names do have interesting meanings. Sadly, Jane doesn't mean anything. My name is really boring.
Me too.
Really? Well,
I think it has a meaning, but you don't know.
it means feminine version of John. That's really not interesting at all. And kind of depressing. Yes, he's just laughing. Yeah, I'm not excited by the meaning of my name, but I know a lot of people, their names do have an interesting meaning. But back to the question, you notice the verb tense here is simple present. This means your answer should also be in simple present, and it should be in the correct structure, correct grammar. So you should also answer in a complete sentence. So for example, if I just said that my name, the meaning of it is feminine version of John, so if they said, okay, Jane, does that have any special meaning? And if I just said feminine version of John, that's not a complete sentence. The complete sentence would be, yes, it does. It means feminine version of John. I've never said that many times ever in my life. Or I could just say, no, it doesn't. Both of those are fine, but remember to use a complete sentence in the correct grammar. Another question, what countries have you visited? That verb tense is present perfect. How many of you guys are in grammar 40? Who's in grammar 40? Most of you guys. If you don't already know the present perfect verb tense, you will spend time studying this semester. Present perfect, even though it has the word present in its name, is actually a past tense, which is a little tricky. So when someone asks, what countries have you visited? This means, what countries did you go to in the past? And you should answer using that same verb tense. So if you say, Jane, what countries have you visited? Oh, well, I have visited a lot of countries, including Russia, South Korea, Kyrgyzstan, Ukraine, Costa Rica. I can continue on. But you need to use that same grammar. And you need to be careful that you don't say, oh, I will visit China next month. Because that's not what the question asked. The question asked, Past tense, what countries have you visited?
You can say I went to, I don't know, Brazil.
You can. So if you haven't yet studied the distinction or the difference between present perfect and simple past, pay really close attention to that in your grammar class because it will be important. Basically, if you know when something happened, I went to Brazil in 2010.
Yeah.
Or just in general, you don't have a time, I have been to Brazil. I have visited Brazil. There's no time. So that works.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
I can say the present perfect not continuous to the future.
So present perfect is something that happened in the past,
Okay.
and it might connect to now or might not. So present perfect continuous means it started in the past, continues to now, and will continue into the future. But just present perfect, I can say I have been to Russia or I have visited Russia.
Okay.
That has no effect on today. It just means sometime in the past that happened. This question, what are you planning to do in the next 5 years? That's a future question. So this here, they're using the present progressive tense to talk about the future. You have probably talked about this in your grammar classes. But if not, again, pay attention in your grammar classes. It's very important. So here, what are you planning to do in the next 5 years? You might say, oh, well, I am planning to get my PhD and then return to my country. Or I could say, I am planning to still be teaching at the ELI. I hope. You just have to remember, for each of these, this is a simple present, this is a past tense, this is a future tense. You need to be sure your answers are in the correct verb tense for the question.